Hey folks, Flappy here. Today we're looking at starting campaigns from scratch. Homebrews. Brennan Lee Mulligan builds inspiringly good campaigns. I think Lou speaks for all of us when he says,
I consider you in many ways to be a DM or GM sensei.
So can we build campaigns from a blank page like Brennan? It doesn't take years to get good at this. Brennan thinks so too.
You can start and be a great DM right away if you make the focus of what you're doing your players' enjoyment at the table.
What it does take is a little bit of focus and pre-planning for cohesion. This can be learned quickly, and I'm gonna help you set up your first session in 5 steps. First of all, no idea comes from scratch. I've said it many times on this channel, and I'll say it again. Embrace your inspiration. Brennan literally says this in Adventuring Academy.
I feel like you have to have a weird mystery about what your inspirations are. Like, notice that me and Murph are saying the names of books and movies and games.
There's absolutely no shame in borrowing, stealing, using, whatever you want to call it. The premise of Fantasy High has been blatantly stated to be what if a John Hughes movie took place in the world of D&D high fantasy. So the very first thing you should do is discuss tone and premise with your players. Let me show you something. Brennan's secret weapon is a big black book called Story by Robert McKee. It goes real fucking deep into genre and setting. The gist you need to know is lean into your genre and keep your setting consistent. The rules of your story should match the rules of your setting. Brennan loves to talk about this scene from Who Framed Roger Rabbit when it comes to setting and tone.
You could have gotten out of these handcuffs at any time! And Roger Rabbit goes, only when it was funny!
The tonal cohesion between you and your players will give everyone a really good jumping off point for creating characters. Now that your inspiration is set, it's time to move on to step 2. Make a living, breathing world. My biggest advice for this part comes from the Adventuring Party episode with Murph.
Like, start with a village so that you don't have to build the whole city.
Starting small really allows you to focus on session 1 story building. You can have your main plot worked out if you want, but you don't have to. Just set your players up to carry a simple task in a small area. As part of this step, you have a really important job, and I'll let Brennan say this one.
The most important unsung, unspoken role of a DM is to guide your PCs through the character creation process.
This leads us to step 3, which is to edit what you've developed to touch on character backstory. The first episode of Fantasy High starts with Brennan getting the kids to school. NPCs have connections with Kirsten's religion. Riz gets to look into his mystery. Everyone has their character backstory worked into the plot of this session in some way. Brennan suggests talking to PCs beforehand to reach a common understanding of character motivation.
Even if we're going to say that let's definitely have you be this like shadowy ranger who has no friends, let's give you something that makes you put one foot in front of the other every day.
Your overarching story should matter to these characters. It's a huge part of homebrewing to be able to tailor the campaign. In fact, the overarching story of Fantasy High didn't originate from Brennan's head.
The whole plot with the missing girls at Eggfort was created for Murph's character.
I want to talk about our next step, which is to like this video. It helps this channel so much, and it helps this video spread to more eyes, which means it can help more people. So please click the thumb down below. Now it's time for step 4, nitty-gritty details. The stats of any monsters you want to use in session 1, magic item stats, NPC names and mannerisms, possible ability checks or saves. This is a big hurdle for any first-time homebrewer. The amount of world you need to flesh out is huge, but you don't need to do it all. Start with the main area. Work out what needs to be worked out for your planned plot, and work out what needs to be there in relation to character backstories. As Murph puts it, start with the circle, plan little things around that circle. Then that circle will have room to grow bigger. You'll have little bits of that bigger world planned out, and you can fill in the little spaces in between. It might seem like Brennan knows exactly what the next thing is going to be and that his world is completely fleshed out, but I can guarantee you that 90% of it isn't. Sure, his worlds have incredible lore, but a lot of that lore is developed during the session. He doesn't go overboard before or after sessions. And don't get me wrong, it can be amazing to have an incredibly immersive world that you can really feel lived in. But even more important, in Brennan's words, is being realistic.
Protecting and guarding your time carefully and making smart decisions in terms of your preparation to be realistic about what you are able to do in your free time is, I think, a big part of the gig if you're running an ongoing campaign.
Okay, it's time for the last step. Decide on the big moments you want to hit later in the campaign. Brennan knows where he's going. He doesn't know when he's gonna get there or how. He can steer the improv to lead characters in a specific direction. If you know the big moments you want to hit on, you can leave little hints early on in the campaign that can pay off later. Without getting too much into spoilers, Ostentatia Wallace and Coach Daybreak are dropped on the first episode. They have roles to play down the line. When it comes to actually running the game, you need to just go forward with no fear, knowing where you want to go. Okay, so I did like, because that's not actually the last step, but the last step is a doozy. Session 0. And there's a lot that needs to go into Session 0, so I'm making a separate video for it, which is gonna go right here when I'm done with it. That's it for this one. I really hope it helped you get a grasp of what it can be like to homebrew a session from scratch, and really how Brennan approaches that task. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.